And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Brandon. And Brandon writes, Deadline is reporting that at the time you are reading this, a major LA COVID-19 testing site has been shut down for today, so Addison Rae's She's All That reboot can film there. Not exactly a great look. I find this incredibly irresponsible, especially with major spikes in the pandemic and sub-jobs requiring weekly COVID tests. I think that the perpetrator of this needs to get their priorities straight. What are your thoughts? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, listen, of course, we are still in a major pandemic that is affecting film. Now, we're seeing filming getting up and going again, which is great. We've got new movies in production, which is great. One of those films going into production is the She's All That remake that's going to be called He's All That, where they kind of swap the roles. The guy's going to kind of be taking the girl's role from the first film. Girl's going to be taking the guy roles from the interesting take, whatever. So then this story comes out that the Union Station testing site in Los Angeles, one of the COVID-19 testing sites, was actually going to have its testing facility shut down for a day so this movie could go and shoot out there. A testing site in the midst of a major pandemic was going to be shut down so they could shoot a movie. Rob, I have 3 stages to my reaction to this. My first reaction to this was absolute and complete outrage. Absolute and complete outrage was stage number 1 for me at any rate. That's where I was at. Because how can you be so dumb? How can you be so unbelievably stupid, if we want to put it kindly, that you would actually shut down a testing facility where people are going to get tested to try to help the pandemic situation, and you're going to shut that down to shoot a movie? Now, that complete outrage of mine got tempered a little bit when I saw the whole context. So this is stage number 2. My outrage got a little bit tempered. And here's why it got tempered. Now, this comes to us from LA Mayor Eric Garcetti, who tweeted out, working with the LAFD, Curative, and Metro Los Angeles, my team has worked to reopen the testing site at Union Station on Tuesday. The 504 Angelinos who were scheduled for a test there can visit the kiosk as originally planned, or any of the other 14 city sites where we offer 38,000 tests daily. All right, so my initial kind of rage over this whole thing, you're shutting down a COVID testing site to shoot a stupid movie. Come on. I got to admit, it was tempered by this for a couple of reasons. Number 1, he's pointing out the fact that, listen, they're not going to shut it down. It's going to remain open. So they're going to shoot the movie there, and they're going to have the testing site open at the same time. So that's one thing. But even before they decided to reopen the testing site, there was a couple of other little caveats there. It was only going to be for 1 day. So, okay, I mean, that's a little bit of, that tempers it a little bit. It was only going to be for 1 day. The second thing was that it was only going to be because they're open from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. and they can process, and they had scheduled for 504 tests. LA does 38,000 tests a day. So really, in the grand scheme of things, that 504 tests is really a small percentage that was going to be inconvenienced for the day. Thing that tempered it, number 3, was the fact that any of those people who had scheduled a test, those 504 people, were going to be able to go to any of the other testing sites and have their appointment honored. And they were still going to be able to get tested that day if they went to any of the other Los Angeles testing sites. So that's phase number 1 was absolute rage, Rob. Phase number 2 was that rage getting tempered when you consider all the extenuating factors. Stage 3, though, of my reaction is, okay, I get it. It was only 504. They could still get tested the same day at any of the other places. It was only going to be for a day, and you've reopened it. Great. Rob, I don't want to overstress, like, just how important just optics are, because just optics should not take precedence over some common sense things.
Right.
But the And I get it. It was only 504 tests. They could have got tested other places. I get all that. But at the end of the day, optics still do count for something. And somebody somewhere in this chain should have realized that the optics in the midst of a brutal pandemic where it's as bad right now, it's worse right now than it's ever been.
Yeah.
And in the midst of that, just the simple, I don't care if it was 3 tests, just the simple optics of we're shutting down a pandemic testing facility so we can shoot a movie. Again, it is tempered for me because of all the extenuating circumstances. There's only going to be so many, all that kind of stuff, but it was still not a bright move. And I'm glad they corrected it. I'm glad they're still going to have the testing site open. But somebody in there has to realize, like even I, a moron, would go, to shutting down a testing site so we can shoot a movie for a day? Yeah, that probably ain't going to fly. And it didn't fly. The mayor's office got flooded with complaints and all that kind of stuff, understandably so. So look, I still think it was stupid. I'm not as angry or outraged about it as I first was when I first read the headline, but it was still pretty dumb, all for shooting a movie. And before anybody says anything, oh, John, you would have been mad if they were shooting a new Star Wars movie. No, it has nothing to do with the fact that it was a She's All That remake. I don't care what movie it was. It was just not a bright move. Not a vile, evil move, not the worst thing in the world, but just not bright. Rob, you heard about this story. What was your reaction to it?
Well, on one hand, I have to agree with you that it was probably not the... Yeah, but on the other hand, just to speak in someone's defense, it might have been booked a while ago. It might have been something that was set up a long time ago by the film office, and maybe that testing site wasn't even open at that location. I mean, it was Union Station? Maybe they thought it wasn't going to be there anymore. So they didn't realize that when the actual location was booked, that there was going to be the COVID would have spiked in LA the way that it has. So the shoot was set up, money was spent, equipment was purchased. A film company might have been spending, I don't know what it was, but you could have been, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, and a film company would have been out that. So it might have been a compromise because people had their wires crossed. And it's the kind of thing where, is that a good thing? No, but the alternative would have been, would the city have reimbursed somebody for that much money? I don't know what the behind the scenes machinations were, but obviously on first glance, it looks bad. But on the other hand, maybe it was somebody that it was a mistake and it became too expensive to rectify. Maybe. Yeah. Now,
it should be pointed out that emails, this became public because emails went out the day before to the 504 people who were scheduled and had appointments to go and get their tests. So it could have been, I think you're probably right. This is probably something that had been planned, but it should have been caught. And before they sent out those emails, but you know what? Hey, look, full credit. They rectified the situation. They're going to have it both. It's just another example that sometimes Hollywood can get a little, tunnel visioned on the business and be a little tone deaf to what's going on around them a little bit. But I'm glad they rectified the situation. So we're good there. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this whole situation? Are you mad as hell and you're not going to take it anymore? Are you like me where it's like, okay, it was stupid, but I get it. It wasn't as bad as I first thought. I don't know. How do you guys feel about it? Jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys.